Yeah, just understand it's difficult to relocate for work, right? It's the most difficult way to relocate, I think. There's many other easier ways to do so. So if you're going to relocate for work, you have to be patient. Some people choose to find other ways to come, and then when they are here, they transform. The way hospitals work in most of Europe is you have like a holding, they call them Träger, you have a holding, and you have a bunch of sub-hospitals, right? In each city or something, right? And they're generally very complex structures, very decentralized, very, very decentralized. So the person receiving the application for opening one is like in a different stratosphere to the person receiving the application for opening two, right? Those people have never met. They don't know each other. They're not planning on meeting each other anytime soon.
Hi everybody, welcome once more to the Immigrant Hub Germany channel. Today I am with Shane again. If you watched our video some weeks ago, we talked about why a lot of qualified candidates are not getting hired in Germany. Today we're going to even go deeper into that and talk about how to get hired in Germany. Before we proceed, I would like to give you an overview of what you can expect in this video. So if you want to get hired in Germany, then I do encourage you to stick around until the end of this video. Shane, as he's going to introduce himself briefly, is the founder and CEO of WorkAbroad, a company that helps you with your full relocation from A to the end, Z. But then you're going to learn how the steps works. We're going to start first and foremost by talking about what are the opportunities in Germany, just an overview for you to understand. And then we go into the key requirements that you need. Why we're talking on that, we'll touch on the barriers or why many people are not getting hired, why they're not getting hired. We're going to talk about nursing as a case study, but understand that the information in this video is not just limited to nursing. No, but we're using nursing as a case study. And then the next question would be, can you do it yourself or do you need an agent or an agency to do it for you? That's something that you're going to find out in this video. And last but not the least, you will see a demo of how the platform actually works. So I do encourage you to grab something to eat, drink, just relax and watch this video to the end. Before we proceed, I'd like Shane to briefly introduce himself so that, we get to know him and then we jump on the conversation.
All right, so you guys probably have seen me before. I certainly hope. If you haven't, you can go watch that video. I'm not sure. I think this will be a bit more specific in some respect, but that video, I think it's a good place to start if you want to follow up on some parts of this one. So I'm Shane, Cameroonian. Lived in Germany now for over a decade. The Netherlands these days, but I was in Germany for quite a while. So I've been in Europe for over a decade. Yeah, so I'm founder and CEO of WorkAbroad. WorkAbroad is a software for relocation, if you will. So you can think of it as an alternative to agencies, right? It's not even an alternative. It's just the way it should be. It's the way it is in many ways.
That's what it is.
So I don't consider agencies use our software, let's put it that way. So we are not competing with them. It's really easy, transparent, compliant, and of course more affordable for everybody to relocate candidates to the West. So happy to be here. We have a few interesting topics lined up, things I like talking about. So we can crack on.
All right, so first off, just a quick recap from the last video. Germany is hiring, but most applicants are failing. Why is that so, Shane?
Well, the cultural differences, I think it's the way I put it in the last video. It's just a different culture, which is why it was very important for us, for Mira, to generate. I always use the CV example, right? And I always use this exact same phrase whenever I'm in a sales call with any agency or employer. I'm like, there are a lot of really bad CVs in this world. You don't want to read them, right? So Mira will generate a CV for this person, right? There are a lot of really bad CVs. People upload images. People upload, it's all sorts of things. It's all sorts of things. Screenshots of images, of PDFs. So that's just laziness. I think all of that is culture in many ways, right? If you don't grow up with a computer, as most Africans, don't, computers are still more expensive than most people can afford in those countries, right? Whereas here they are like, cannot do anything with a computer. Then it's natural that your CVs would be, or that your output as far as technology is concerned, CVs or otherwise, would be quite poor. Stuff like Canva has really helped, I'll be honest, because Canva, the recent generation of these tools has been mobile first. So you have a lot of, for some reason, girls especially, really putting together really decent CVs because you give you a template. Back in the day, it would be Word. Word would not give you a CV template, but it's not great. Canva and like a few other tools are coming up with like really good stuff that you just need to put just copy paste on your phone, right? Word wasn't the case. Word, so it's improving, luckily, and globalization, etc. But principally, people don't get these jobs because they don't know how to apply. They don't know where the hell to go to apply. They don't know who's hiring. They don't know how to write an application. They don't know how to apply. They don't know what documents to upload. They cannot read or they choose not to read. You're never too sure which is going on. There's quite a few reasons we could get into why people don't really, get these jobs here.
Okay, I think we can now list those reasons more specifically right now. What are the biggest barriers? You already touched on it. I think culture is one of the key part because that goes deeply into every other aspect. But if we were to list them out more specifically so that someone who's listening or watching this right now can understand how to be prepared to get hired in Germany, I want us to touch on what are those biggest barriers or challenges that is making it for candidates not to be hired in Germany. You touched on them right now, just briefly, but maybe we can list some of them. And then we go into the case study of a nurse that wants to relocate to Germany, what the workflow would be like for
Yeah.
them.
So this isn't specific to Germany. I think
Yeah.
it's a European thing. The biggest barrier would almost certainly be lack of information, right? Which is where things like tools like Settling come in, or others, right? Social media or whatever, right? It's just a lack of information. Our people are just very ignorant on these things, right? Which is why you have the whole agency industry. So it's that, and I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult to relocate yourself for work. It's very difficult. If your goal is just to relocate, pick something else. Pick school, pick apprenticeships, pick anything else. It's easier. Now, relocating for work is the toughest way to relocate, right? To relocate into a job, because there's a lot more that needs to be done, a lot more that needs to be proven. Your employer needs to really
100%.
want you.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But there are still a lot of different ways, a lot of employers doing it, paying a lot of money, because it's just different. We'll get into it, but if you're relocating for school, for instance, you sort out your own housing, right? You figure out your own housing yourself. You figure out that whole process yourself. The only thing you need is your admission letter. Just take it, just carry it on your head, go to the consulate, get your visa, hopefully, right? You need to make sure, prove that you have some money, etc., etc. But nobody really asks where you live, right? But for work, your employer has a lot to do to get you over, right? Which is why it's like the toughest way to move, if that's your goal. So your employer needs to figure out housing for you. They need to figure out your health insurance for you. They need to figure out, and housing, we'll get to it, but housing is actually a tricky thing. I don't want to, because we had a very interesting conversation with an agency yesterday about it. I'll get into it in a bit. But housing, let's figure out housing for you, health insurance. They need to pay for in many cases, they call it beschleunigte Fachkräfteverfahren, so accelerated procedure for workers. They need to pay another 411 euros, I think, to get you moving in like fewer than 6 months from most countries. So it's an expensive, long process for these people, right? It's a miracle that they actually do it, to be honest with you. It's a miracle. That tells you how bad things are, right? How crazy the demand is that they still do it. But like, it's a miracle. It takes like a year. And you need to hire people, you need to pay agencies to do it for you. It's a miracle that they do it, right? Looking at the process. So demand is certainly there. Some industries are having more than others. Healthcare, you mentioned, is by far the one where they are most open to it, right? And then you have the logistics people, and then the handiwork people, a lot less. And they'll more often tell you, hey, let the candidate pay themselves. They don't want to come to Germany. In healthcare, the employer has to carry all the costs. So to go back to the original question, why do people not move? Lack of information. Principally, it's really tough. So even when you have the information, okay, what problem might you have? You are just not good enough, right? It's very often the case. If you're not good enough, you're not better than some random person in Morocco, because then you're competing against the entire world. You're not good enough. You certainly don't sell yourself well enough. So the person in Morocco might not be better than you, but they look better than you. You're unfortunate. You studied at a university that isn't fully recognized in Germany, right? Or your university and your degree are not entirely well recognized in Germany. That's something else. You just haven't applied enough. That's the laziness part that comes in again, because it's like people in Cameroon want to apply for 10 positions and figure something out, whereas people in Europe already apply for 300 positions before they get something. You in Cameroon need to be ready, or in Africa need to be ready to apply for 3,000 to get something. So just apply, right? And it ties in with the information or lack thereof again, because you don't know 3,000 companies hiring for that. But there are a lot of people hiring for nurses, for instance. A lot of people. I'm surprised every few weeks at how many people, at how big the industry is, right? So yeah, there's quite a few reasons here.
You know, you touched actually on a very important point, which for me, it just stressed the need for people to be not only more informed, but also more prepared. And that's if employers are going through this process, or rather through this tedious process, which is also expensive to get the people over, then it just tells you how high the demand is. But still at that, a lot of people seem not to be getting the opportunities, because this is what we get. At least I'm sure you get those requests. I get those requests. I see people texting me or sending me DMs on Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever, TikTok, and so on, saying, I want this job, I want that job. It's like it's overwhelming from both sides. And you just ask yourself, the demand is high, the supply is there. but somehow the two parties are not coming together. My point is that if you're watching this video right now, then I think you can make life a lot easier for yourself and also for your potential employer. Just, not only be qualified, but get the right information, be prepared, and be hired. It's not that difficult. Do you think
Yeah.
it's difficult, Shane? Do you think if someone gets the right information, everything that they're supposed to know, do you think it's difficult still?
I think it's still difficult. I think it's still difficult because you're competing against the entire world, right? In many ways, it can be compared to getting into, like, I don't know, Harvard or something. In many ways, it's easier, but
But the demand is high, isn't it?
the
Like,
demand is high. But again, if the whole world is trying, it's like the US, right? If you're trying to get a visa to go to the US, the demand is so high, you are competing. They have a lottery system. It's not because they like, just throwing balls around and picking random numbers. It's because the demand is so high. There is no fair way to do it, right? So they just do it. There's so many people just trying to get into the US. They just throw a bunch of numbers, pick a bunch of random lottery people, and give them visas, right? It's not fair. You might have applied sooner. You might have a better application for any of their visas, but it's just the way it is, right? So even in this case, even if you have everything down correctly, it can still be quite challenging. But in 90% of cases, the people who write those messages, they don't have the requirements anyway. And that's the thing. If you don't have the requirements, it's really difficult to, because we come from cultures where boundaries are a lot less clear. People think they can negotiate their way through everything. So you need B2 German. Yeah, well, is there a way to go? I'm not the one with the rules, it's just the way the country is, right? So I'm neutral to the rules. I think it could be easier in some ways, but people try to negotiate their way. Oh, is there a different way? Can I pay you? Can I pay somebody? Can I, no, there's nothing you can do about that. So, but the people who are qualified, if you have everything in order, let's say you have B2, you are from a university with a recognized nursing degree, let's say, speak the German, you apply enough. I struggle to see why you will not find something in less than a year. If you're a qualified nurse and you're applying directly on the employer's website, because again, what's the opportunity cost? The employer is going to pay an agency anywhere between 13 and 20,000 per nurse. It's a lot of work, right? Because the process that happens after that, again, is still tough. But if you have everything in order, you have your CV put together quite nicely, you have your degrees, you have everything they ask for, and the employer has the choice between just hiring you or going to an agency, they'll hire you directly, of course. So the demand is that high, right? In nursing. In the other fields, it's much less the case. It's significantly less the case. Like truck drivers are like an exception because it's also really, really easy. Your truck driving license is like, you cannot believe how much those people are desperate for you. So, but if you're qualified and you have everything sorted, then anybody will be able to get you a job.
I think that's a fair point for sure. In as much as the demand is high, there are also a lot of people who also are looking for that position, because many people want to move to Germany, want to move to Europe, and we're talking the rest of the world essentially. So that puts you in a really tight position and still raises the stake high, because again, no one is going to bend the rules for you. And so it's like by default, many candidates already come with a lot of, say, complications or inefficiency, incomplete document, and so on and so forth.
They just filter you out, right? They don't even our software would, Mira has the workflows that she would ping you and make sure. So if an employer says, hey, paragraph 16b, visum for this person, whatever, right? Mira knows, okay, for this particular visa, you need this document, right? She has the workflows that they can trigger, where she would make sure you upload every one of those documents. Something to come from the employer, the rest come from the candidate, right? Some that she needs to put together herself. So Mira will ping you for those, but if you don't upload a document or you don't have it or whatever, it's just, that's it. There's nothing anybody can do about that, right? So, and to be fair, most candidates do take it seriously, right? I think any candidate who has gotten that far would be open to. However, having said that, employers tell us all the time they go to agencies because the dropout rate from people who apply directly on our website is much higher than the ones from the agency.
That's true, of course,
Right, so the people who apply on our website are free. They want to bring those people in, but I think we spoke with this hospital in Essen, actually. They get 300 applicants, I don't remember, it was a month or a year, probably a year, on their website, but they have like 90% never get back to them when they reach out to them to continue the process. Right? But when they go to an agency, they pay a lot more, but then they know that, okay, if somebody drops out, they will just replace with somebody else and just, so there's a bit more planning, that they can do around that. So, so people do drop off, but I would say most people who know what they want, most people who want to come to Germany, because some people just would wait. If Canada shows up, they are going that direction, perhaps. Rightly so. US shows up, they're never too sure. They're not decided on one country. They're like, okay, maybe I'll do this. Maybe if it shows up this way, I'll go this way. So there's no real plan there. They're just waiting for anything. Any ball that bounces in the right direction, they're kicking it. So, those things happen as well.
So let's talk now. We use nursing as a case study as we already planned. What would be the step-by-step process for a registered nurse from outside of Europe that wants to move to Germany to continue her profession?
Right.
What would be the step-by-step process for this person, you know?
So our software is principally B2B, but I'll try to explain it from, I mean, we know these things, right? I have to know, well, I have to build the software that we build and sell. But so here's the process. Firstly, you cannot go to an agency for most of Africa, for most of sub-Saharan Africa, because agencies are not allowed to relocate nurses.
Okay.
I don't know how people don't know this, or they know this, or they
But many agencies claim they can relocate
they're
nurses. You
lying.
see
They're
that
lying.
posting
They
about
can
this.
relocate apprentices, and some skirt these rules, right? But most hospitals do not get nurses from agencies from sub-Saharan Africa for that reason.
So that means regardless of
They are not allowed.
your nursing
The
qualification and experience back in your home country, plus your language proficiency and how long you
they're not
worked,
allowed.
you can't just
Doesn't
come
matter. You're
and
not.
begin to work as
Yeah.
a nurse in
And
Germany.
the background is this. There's this thing called the WHO list. In German, they call it the WHO list. And there's a list of countries where there's a shortage of nursing workers, of caregivers, right? And most of sub-Saharan Africa is in there, right? So the sub-Saharan African governments have said, we have a shortage, so
I
don't take
see.
our
That's where
nurses.
it's coming from.
Right? And WHO has said, oh, that makes sense. That is perfectly reasonable. I mean, it's the dumbest thing, but that's the way it is. WHO has said, okay, from much of sub-Saharan Africa, don't take their nurses.
So
They
don't
lack
take them.
nurses, right? So agencies cannot do that. Employers can do it
I
directly,
see.
right? So if you go to the employer and apply directly, they can do it, right? They need to get some thumbs up from the Bundesagentur für Arbeit, which is the employment agency in Germany, or the employment agency of the government. They can give that to them, but agencies are not allowed to do it. Some agencies skirt that regulation, but most employers, especially if they're using our software will highlight if somebody's from Nigeria and say, yeah, you cannot bring this person to nurse because it's from an agency, right? So you cannot do that. So those are the type of things that go into play when relocating people. But anyway, let's say you are a nurse in Nigeria, you have from a qualified university that is fully, okay, how do you know if your university and your degree are accredited in Germany? So an easy way is to ask Mira. If you put your education, so you put your university and degree, Mira should be able to tell you depending on where you, on what website you. Some of our clients have, pay a bit more than others, so they have a few. If you go to our website, let's say, right, and you ask Mira, that she'll be able to tell you. But really, that information is from, that data is from ANABIN, which is the government's degree recognition thing that they have going on for university recognition, right? So if you go into the ANABIN website, you type in your university name or your country university name, degree, it will tell you if your university and then your degree are recognized and how they're recognized in Germany. If it's all good, if both are perfectly fine, then you have, a leg up. So that's only for university degrees. There's another one, BQ Portal, which is for vocational training, right? And we are in contact with them. We'll try to integrate that into our system. It's complex, but we'll try to integrate that. But ANABIN is uni degrees. BQ Portal is apprenticeship, so vocational training degrees from from the rest of the world. So if you have that, say, okay, well, I have a nice CV, I have my photos, I have all my degrees, and I know that they'll be recognized in Germany. I have all of that together. Okay, I'll go and apply. Now you can do that. You can do that in Mira, perfectly fine, or you can go to just Google, ChatGPT, whatever, right? A list of all the hospitals in Germany. There's not a single hospital in Germany that's not hiring nurses from abroad. There are some who hire nurses from abroad, a large part, an ever increasing part. They're all hiring nurses. Just go and apply to any position. Some of them have like an international hire page on their website. Many of them, ever more, they're increasing, but they have like an entire page dedicated to international people from outside who are applying, and they explain the rules and what else you should keep in mind, etc., etc. But by the time you get there, you should know that anyway, or else you're not serious, right? So, but many don't, but they are hiring internationally already, just using the normal form, right? Normal application form, right? So you upload your stuff, you apply, and let's say you're lucky enough, they get back to you. In fact, there's this other hospital, they only get international applicants. Nobody in Germany. That's how high the demand is, right? Their entire application flow, the career, that whole thing on the website to apply for jobs, it's only for international people because nobody in Germany applies for jobs there. That's how high the demand is. Right, so we're like, how many? I say, yeah, we're getting about 1,000, 1,200. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, it's like the only people who apply are people from abroad. People from like the Maghreb, people from Asia, they do apply. Africans apply less because they're not familiar with technology. They're not sub-Saharan Africans. I mean, they're not familiar with technology. They're not versed with these things, etc. So everybody who applies is from abroad. Nobody inside Germany applies anymore. Anyway, they like you. They interview you, get to know you, they like you, they'll make you a contract offer. it's a formality. They sign it, you sign it. Then they can start, doing a few. So the things I'm going to describe now can run in parallel or, as a sequence, right? They can already start the degree recognition or qualification recognition process, which differs from state to state, right? So to get a nurse certified in the Nordrhein-Westphalia, it's a different body. Or get their degree accredited, it's a different body than the one that does it in any other, each state has its own. You actually have multiple, we have states where you have more than one. It's crazy. So in any case, they can start that process, or they can wait for you to get here before starting it. It's entirely different. Now they need to put your documents together, right? And that's where WorkAbroad also helps them greatly, because they can select whatever visa they want to use and then select the add-ons like the beschleunigte Fachkräfteverfahren, or they can go for Abstimmung der Ausländerbehörde, they can go for Abstimmung der Bundesagentur für Arbeit. There's various parts of that visa thing, which is why this is the most complex way of immigrating for work, right? It's also the best way, because you land, you start earning money already. You don't need to go through that suffering process that I went through, right? Where you come and you have nothing, right? You're leaving to get a job. When you come for work, you already have money you have a bank account already, right? So you don't need to go to school and work part-time and send money. It's just a different comfort, but it's harder, right? So in any case, if they like you, that's where we are now. They can start that process. And then the beschleunigte Fachkräfteverfahren happens in the region, so they would apply for that. And for that, they need a lot of documents from you, which hopefully you've already submitted. If you haven't, then Mira will collect that from you and then send it in. They get the results from them, right? They get the results back from the governing body, or the whatever they're called, and they say, okay, that's one more document that is part of what you need for your visa. So they put all of that together, including your contract, including everything else. They put it together, send it to you. So by this time, hopefully you've set your stuff up. So you're waiting only for that beschleunigte. So just to explain again, maybe the beschleunigte Fachkräfteverfahren is there to speed up your relocation. Without that, it can take you a really long time. If you go to the German consulate in Cameroon or the one in Nigeria, you get a way quicker appointment if you have that document saying, hey, beschleunigte, right? So that would take you from like 9 months to 12 months to like 3 weeks or something. They have to give you an appointment. So they'll sort that out for you really quickly. Then they hand it to you, and then you go interview, visa, you come. So in parallel, they are sorting out your housing, sorting out your health insurance, etc., etc. You get here, they pick you up from the airport. If you're coming for school, nobody is trying to pick you up from the airport, right? You're coming for work, they have to figure somebody else to pick you up from the airport, figure out to take you to the apartment. They'll show you around town. How does it work? How does this happen? How does it blah, blah, blah. So there's a lot of investment from the employer side, right? Which is why I think it's a miracle that this even happens, right? There's so much difficulty about it that you just have to sit and appreciate what demand and supply can the effect it can have on certain micro economies. So that's about what the process would look like for most people. It doesn't end there. When you come, you have to go through a qualification period. There's two ways. It can end in a Kenntnisprüfung or Anpassungslehrgang. Anpassungslehrgang is a bit more complex. They basically try to anpassen you, which means to modify you or to bring you up to speed. I think few people do that these days. What most do is a Kenntnisprüfung. So 6 to 9 months, you would go to school again. You'll be working, but you'll be going to school. And then after the 6 to 9 months, you take the Kenntnisprüfung, which literally translates to knowledge exam. So, and then if you take that, you pass, you are then a fully recognized German nurse. Yeah. That's the way that would happen.
Yeah. Well, guys, so of course we couldn't go through all the tiny details, but this is just to open your eyes to what the process looks like, especially for nurses and professional nurses. I do encourage you to seek more information. Go to settling.com and check out all the different contents that people have written about nursing so that you can learn and also interact with other people who are discussing this topic. I think as you understand right now, the process is a bit complicated. So which also means that if you don't prepare well enough, then it can only get more complicated for you. But if you take your time to do all the necessary homework and assignment, even before you begin to ask questions, just do the basic things. What document do you need? How is the process? Exactly how Shane explained it now, that's more like an overview. But of course, there are still different points. What I could do is also to put together...
If I may, Mike, clarify two things. So just on the WHO list thing again, just to clarify, the only countries in Africa where an agency can relocate a nurse from Kenya and South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? So if you're from those countries and you're listening to this, you're perfectly fine. An agency can relocate you. If you're from any other country, it's not possible. I think maybe Ghana.
Yeah.
Sometimes they say Ghana is it, but I don't think so. I think Ghana, you cannot. The employer can do it, right? The second thing, I explained it from both sides because, again, we are always thinking of both sides, right? So, but just to clarify, from the candidate's perspective, the only thing they are doing is applying, getting interviewed, and then waiting for this Bishlo interface if found proof. They're not the ones handling any of that. They just submit the documents, provide all that information, and then they go to the consulate and do that. But if you take the employer side into consideration, it's a very, very difficult process. It's a really complicated process, which again is why I keep saying it's a miracle that these people bother. Yeah.
Now, I guess that actually brings us nicely into the next point, the agency dilemma. Do you need an agency or do you not need an agency? For a typical candidate, what do you think? Do they need an agency? Let's say regardless of where they're coming from, with or without WHO restrictions.
I don't think so. I think the employers need agencies.
But not the candidates.
The candidates know. It's not that difficult. You just apply, wait, submit documents, wait, go to the consulate website, set up an appointment, and you keep it moving, right? You don't need an agency per se. But even what I just described is too much for many. And certainly it's opportunity costing as well, where they're going, this is like a major decision in my life. I'm ready to invest. They consider an investment, right? In somebody who's an expert at this, handling it for me. So I have a lot to lose, right? What if it doesn't work out? I'll blame myself, right? And my mother who's paying for it would like shout at me or something. So they go to an expert. So just to put it together again, the employers need agencies very often. And even the employers who hire internally themselves, they generally tend to build like a special unit for hiring from outside, right? So that is still sort of an agency to us, right? To be honest, it's not the normal HR, it's not the normal recruitment team doing that. They have a small team together, 1 to 5 people handling people from outside Germany, right? To bring them in. So they need agencies more than the candidates do. Yeah, you don't need agencies. I don't know if you want to ask a question. What the agencies that you paid? So what agencies in Africa do when they get language schools? Same thing. So we have a lot of those as well. What they do is you have some ones that are connected, but most don't. They have a lot more candidates than they have positions. So they call other agents. They take your money first and foremost, of course. They're happy to. They're rendering a service, right? If you cannot figure it out yourself, then as I explained just a few seconds ago, you pay them for that. In effect, what they do is for Ausbildung, for like their apprenticeships, very frequently they'll apply as you because employers don't pay for Atubis. So they'll take all your documents and go and apply on those websites, those jobs as you, because they have nothing to gain from that transaction. They've taken your money already. So they'll go and apply. They'll say, hey, if your name is, I don't know, Yusuf, they'll go and apply as Yusuf, right? And then if that happens, then they'll send it to you and get it done, right? Because they have nothing to gain from the employer. Let me clarify. The agency in Africa would call an agency here who does that for them. So they'll apply as you. The advanced ones, they would apply themselves. If you are a qualified worker, they want to earn money from you and the employer because employers pay for qualified workers. So they cannot apply as you. They need to remain in the process. So they set up cold emailing campaigns and cold calling to agencies and to employers trying to sell to them, right? I posted on LinkedIn recently, all the employers we talk to, they get spammed by agencies, even from outside, right? I get calls. Oh, okay, a call from Morocco. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, I have candidates. What can we do? I'm like, well, I'm software, right? I'm trying to bring the cost down. So they pick up the phone, they're calling, I have candidates. Can we do a deal? I'm like, no, I'm not interested, right? So that's what they do for you. That's the first part, right? They need to get you a contract offer. That's their job, to get you a contract offer. And then also you have agencies here who have like Rahmenverträge. Rahmenvertrag is a more comprehensive contract. I forget the word now for whatever reason, but so they have like a hospital would say, we need like 50 candidates from you over the next 3 years, right? So they would then take those positions and sell to agencies in Africa, right? Or language schools. And in that case, the agency in Africa is taking money from you, however much it is. I hear crazy amounts for language schools in Cameroon charging candidates 5 million, 6 million. That money doesn't even remain. They take that money and pay this other guy here, right? And then this guy here takes you and presents you to the company there. And then, so it's a different type of hiring for the employer, right? It's a very, very complex, which is why you need solutions like ours, because without that, the existing solutions don't really, cover that. It doesn't cover there being an agency here, an agency in Africa, a language school. They can, normal hiring is just, I put my ad, you come and apply, done, nothing, right? Here, you have all these people involved. Somebody needs to pick him from the airport, somebody needs to pick him from, so yeah, it's much more complex. But from the candidate's perspective, you don't need an agency. Just go to the website website of any hospital, if you see our widget, Mira widget there, even the better, just scan the QR code, open on WhatsApp, start applying. But if you don't, just go to their normal application page or the openings, apply for every position you see there. Because that's something else that people overlook for whatever reason. The way hospitals work in most of Europe is you have like a holding, they call them Träger, you have a holding and you have a bunch of sub-hospitals, right? In each city or something, right? And they're generally very complex structures, very decentralized, very, very decentralized. So the person receiving the application for opening 1 is like in a different stratosphere. The person receiving the application for opening 2, right? Those people have never met. They don't know each other. They're not planning on meeting each other anytime soon. They don't know where they. So if you go to a website, you have 200 openings. Those are perhaps 40 different people who have never heard of each other, right? The same hospital website, the same application.
Managing those applications.
Right. So just completely dispersed. And that's a big problem for us as well, because if we're selling our software to a company, we can either sell it to, if we're lucky, we have like the Stabstelle, a group that has been constituted by management to handle foreign hiring for the entire group of companies or hospitals, or we need to sell to the entire, which is impossible. You cannot sell to 40 or 30 different, it takes way too long, right? So you need to sell to a group of people who have been set apart for that. So if you're applying directly, you need to apply to as many of those as possible. It's not the same person receiving them. Different people have different proclivities.
That would also increase your chance as well of.
That's the point. Because one person might go, I'm not hiring from outside. Another person is very happy to hire from outside. He loves it, right? He loves, because he's already paying agencies 15,000 euros per person. So he's like, okay, I'm desperate for people to apply to my position themselves. And if they're good, I'll consider them, right? So in saying this, I realize how valuable this is actually for the candidates, because I know these things because I talk to the companies, right? But they don't get the chance to, right? So I don't think about this very much, but I think it's actually very, very valuable for the candidates to know that these little things that you learn from talking to the agencies and the employers and the various parts.
No, I think it's a very complex system, but at the same time, it can actually be easy because, again, like you said, it's just to look for the opportunities, look for the openings, apply to as many as possible. But of course, before you start shooting your applications, be sure to check the requirements and make sure you have them. So once you do that initial work, I think it's pretty much easy, and all you have to do is wait. And again, if you actually know how to use your network correctly, then you wouldn't have to wait that long, because first you're well informed, then you're going to use different measures or strategies to see that you actually get in contact with the people hiring. I think we could have another session talking about what you can do after you've sent your applications, what kind of measures to take, being proactive and all this kind of stuff, so you don't just apply and wait. But I think for the sake of this video, we will just keep it at this point. But I think this is more than enough information to get you started, to get your friend, a family member, or someone else that you know that needs to watch or listen to this. Now we're going to show you the demo of how Mira works and what you can expect, how the platform can help candidates like you be prepared and also get hired in Germany very easily. So guys, you must have seen how Mira works. It's a free application, right? One can use it from any location.
It's on WhatsApp. It's the most beautiful thing I've probably ever built. Our clients are very happy. They appreciate the way it fits with because it's not normal recruitment. Relocation takes so long, and it's so many questions that like with Mira, if we are set up on a client's premises, then you, a candidate, can always come and ask, hey, and there's just so much more information there than with a normal recruitment process, right? Because it's like, okay, do I need to submit it? Are you not interested anymore? Where has it stopped? There's a lot more things there. But if you want to use the free version of Mira, it's on our website. You go to our website, there's a QR code you can scan, there's a button you can click as well, and you can start applying or upload your documents to it, and create a profile. It's much less likely you'll find a position from our website because we're principally B2B, meaning you need to go to the hospital's websites or agencies who are using us, and then you scan the Mira widget on there. And actually with agencies, really, if you're from one of these countries that's allowed to, and you go to a website where an agency has our widget and you scan it, the odds of you getting interviewed are astronomical, now that I think of it, right? They run ad campaigns. Yesterday, I was talking about housing at the beginning, right? Which is why this might be late in the podcast, but I have to expand on it, right? So we spoke to an agency yesterday. They do about 200 candidates a year. So meaning they probably talk to maybe 1,500 candidates a year, and they relocate 200 a year from Morocco, Tunisia mostly, but also a bit of Kenya. So nurses only. One of the biggest bottlenecks in this recruitment is actually housing. There is no housing in many of the big cities, right? If a hospital in München needs a nurse or a worker, there's no housing. Everybody has given up. So it's like, yeah, I would like to, but I don't know where to put them. So I cannot do it. So this agency is now buying and developing property to make it so, and renting it back to the hospital. It won't always happen, but there's more likely to be housing. And they estimate that if they have enough housing, they'll be able to do easily 100 more relocations a year, right? So housing is a massive, massive bottleneck for them. And the reason why I thought about that again is just because how do they get candidates? They run ads, right? Because they don't want to pay language schools or local agencies in those countries money. They run ads on Facebook, on Instagram, etc. And then the funnel, you come to their website. If we onboard them, you'll see Mira there. You scan it, and also you getting interviewed in that case are so high. They don't want to pay those people money, right? So they are happy for you to even find them on their website, right? And then
makes everything easy for them.
In their case, actually, they pay you to learn the language. So they pay you to learn the language, they pay and they give you a stipend. That's how much demand there is in this market, right? So that's nursing, that's healthcare. They pay you to learn the language if they like you, give you a stipend if they like you, and then after that, you go through the process and then they relocate you here. So those are two things I felt like were necessary to add. The housing thing in the big cities is a massive, massive problem. It's slows things down a lot. And of course, also this topic of just finding the people hiring. Maybe at some point we'll have a registry on our website of all the places where you can find Mira. But generally speaking, if you go to a place in Mira, if you're qualified, if you have B2 German, or in some cases they don't care, like these people, they will find you with no German and they'll pay you. But they only do a few countries, as I mentioned, right? If you go to a place where they're hiring and you have a B2, they'll interview you and they'll help you. And they don't charge you money, mostly. Those in Africa would charge you money. And quite rightly so in some cases, because you don't want to do anything, right? But if you are bothered, right, you can do these things yourself and spend way less money.
Crazy. I think what I'm really getting here is, again, it all goes back to what we've been talking: information. Because the more you know and the more attention you pay to what we're talking about, it's not rocket science. In as much as the process looks complex, in as much as it seems like it takes a lot of time, but you can just simplify a lot of things by being well informed, staying within the community, and most importantly, just taking it seriously. So I think that's it for this session, how to get hired in Germany. We talked about nursing as a special case, but this also applies to a large extent to other sectors. I'm going to try to put an article together and just put all the details, and you can find the link wherever you're listening or watching this from. Shane, any last words from you before we wrap up the session for today?
Very few, because I've spoken quite a bit. Just understand it's difficult to relocate for work, right? It's the most difficult way to relocate, I think. There's many other easier ways to do so. So if you're going to relocate for work, you have to be patient. Some people choose to find other ways to come, and then when they are here, they transform and go through the whole work recognition process. That might be easier in some cases. But hey, we're doing our best to make it so, it's affordable for people to relocate. So it's easier for people to relocate. So, the market, we are growing the market. And some people have come before us, right? Our biggest competitor, I will not name them, in the B2B SaaS space in this market. I will not name them. They are like my nemesis. They've been around way longer than us, 5 years now. And they have done, when we're talking to a potential client, they've done a lot of explaining that we don't need to do anymore. It's the same way that we are hoping that our explanation and our software, and we also put articles out on our website. You can go and read them on some certain things. The opportunity card, I think, is a very good vehicle for many people who don't have job, because opportunity card cuts through all of this thing that I just described, right? You don't need any of this thing, or this work, this thing, or you don't need it. Just need your blocked account, which might actually be easier. So information, again, going back to what you said, you need to really think well to figure out the best way of doing it. Just find the information, go to our website, read the articles there, go to Settling. There's people on there who post all the time. I have an account. Yeah, just do what you have to do. That's the way life is.
Do
the way it works.
Do what you have to do, and stay connected. Keep asking questions, but before you ask questions, please just do your due diligence. Don't come and ask me what are the requirements, because that's literally everything we talked about in this session. Thank you so much, Shane, for that, and thank you all for sticking around until the end of the video. I hope it made some senses. If you have questions, please put them down below, and see you around, guys. Cheers.